sure that my boss would be introducing me in a vice presidential forum. Yes, Dave was too humble when he said that we worked together. I actually worked for him, under him, at an ad agency as one of my first jobs, and he was responsible for putting me in prime time in RPN 9 when I was a budding newscaster. So thank you very much, Dave. Thank you to all my friends in the distinguished list of friends of the MOPC. Should I mention one by one? Tony Seva was the big boss during my time. I'm dating myself. Of course, Rolly is a person I always nag for requests, you know what I mean. LP is my father's friend. And of course, Secretary Villanueva, we welcome you. Attorney Emil, I am close to, but most especially to his wife, mas malakas ako kay Mrs. Morado. And Tony Lopez is one of my brilliant advisors, pro bono. Tita Nelia, of course, is my tita for the past 25 years, way back when I was a journalist. And Beth is a very brilliant interviewer and great entrepreneur. Bong Osorio, kailangan magpalakas sa ABS-CBN mo para pag-cover ako paminsan-minsan. But we've known each other for quite a while. And of course, Butch Raquel was my boss in the newsroom. So, and many of you, if not most of you present here today, are either my friends, my mother's friends, my father's friends, my titos and my titas. So how can I not feel comfortable in your midst? I will no longer introduce, because they will be introduced later, the media practitioners who will grill me later on tonight. I wish I could say that we would be happy tonight. It's Thanksgiving today. I wish we could celebrate Thanksgiving. But 4 days after the gruesome massacre in Maguindanao, it is difficult to see the blessings and Thanksgiving in our midst. But maybe it would take a massacre of such proportion for us to realize that we have to be shaken out of our apathy and stupor to disarm private armies in Mindanao and to finally put a gun ban and an end to political rivalries that bring about violence and poverty in Mindanao. I was telling Dave that I was just there 2 weeks ago. I was the only senator invited in the State of the Region address by Governor Salmi Apamuan. Being the chair of the Finance Committee for the Armed Budget, I did lengthy consultations with them, wanting to help upgrade the quality of education in the armed region and the health situation, especially for women and children who are dying of diseases which did not be the cause of death in that region. I never thought that this would happen in that area. I stayed overnight despite the warnings of some friends. As you all know, I have scored the archipelago and have slept in rebel camps for the past 30 years. Sleeping in Cotabato City is nothing and nothing new to me. After Cotabato City, I moved to Tacloban, Maguindanao, again, where the rebels used to fight and still do, and visited a camp of IDPs, internally displaced persons, and fed the more than 2,000 IDPs who have been there for a year and a half because of the fighting between government troops and the MILF, because of the search for Canto and Bravo, who wreaked havoc in central Mindanao more than a year ago. But why is it that when we are looking for rebel elements of the MILF and the CPP, NPA, NDF, the government uses its power and might, the PNP, AFP, and everything else, to try to apprehend them? Why is it that when it comes to alleged political allies who are the alleged perpetrators of the Restardi carnage that happened last Monday, the government seems to have to treat it with kid gloves? But I am glad that there was a surrender of the mayor of Tatuon Town in Maguindanao this afternoon. I am, of course, happy to be in the presence of the press today, having spent most of my fulfilling and exciting years of my life in the media, starting in 1978 in GMA 7, 1981 RPN 9, 1984 MBS 4, 1985 KSCI Channel 18 in Los Angeles, 1986 Inside Story, Pep Talk, and The World Tonight by ABS-CBN, till I ran for the Senate in 1998. I retired early from ABS-CBN. I only got reminded the other day, after talking to one of the executives who retired, that I failed to get the hefty retirement pay. So it was for 20 years that I worked in the only thing I knew how to do. I knew I could not be a doctor. I could not be a flight stewardess. I could not be a model. I could not be anything else but a journalist. A passionate, inquisitive journalist, because of the influence of my late grandfather, Jose P. Bautista, considered one of the pillars of Philippine journalism. A colleague and friend of former Secretary Rod Reyes, I think it was Loren Legarda, who gave Rod one of his most important assignments, and who gave the late Benigno Aquino Jr. his first assignment as a reporter to cover the Korean War. So media was my life, is my life, it was my passion, until politics plucked me away from media, a hesitant candidate in 1998. But because of your support, because I felt the pulse of the people, and I knew what they needed, despite meager resources, I was elected #1 in 1998, and the rest is history. I am one with you, members and officers of the MOPC, in the belief that journalism can become an instrument of social change and good government, and of promoting democratic principles, international understanding, and national welfare. I would like to commend the MOPC for carrying on the legacy of the freedom of the press. There is no doubt about the inspiring contribution journalists have accomplished for the independence of our country. Among many nations, the Philippines remains a model for democracy and diversity. Many different ethnic groups and political factions have found a way to live and work together in peace and harmony, at least until recently. We could brag about a robust civil society, a free and fair press, alliances among regional leaders fostering regional peace, except that brutal and gruesome murders of civilians, including journalists last Monday, has shown us that journalists in the Philippines are living dangerous lives. It is therefore so sad and disappointing that the Philippines has been considered now as even more dangerous than Iraq for journalists to practice their profession. That is the reason why I began my remarks with the freedom that you and your predecessors fought so hard to win throughout Philippine history. Now, not even the most callous could deny that journalists are being hunted in this country by those who seek to subvert our hard-earned democracy. In fact, the BBC has interviewed me for the past 2 evenings, despite my hoarse voice and coming from a climate change conference in San Roque Dam last night. I had a very long interview with BBC's Nick Going, and another one today with Lucy and Tom Butler before I came in. By now, the extent of the Maguindanao massacre continues to unfold, and the number and identities of the victims shock us more. Innocent women, women who didn't even have bodyguards and were non-combatants, lawyers, human rights lawyers, and journalists who were just passionately pursuing their vocation. In fact, I am very emotional about it because, as I told you 2 weeks ago after Dato Piang, I motored by land to Isunan Sultan Kudarat, where I keynoted a climate change workshop sponsored by Governor Teng Dato and Governor Daisy Fuentes of South Cotabato. After that, a press con was held, and many of the journalists who joined me in that conference and interviewed me are now lying in coffins in Coronadal in South Cotabato.